Hey Jenna, it's so nice to have you on the show today. How are you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing just fine, and thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. Thank you. And you see, Jenna, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two main things. And I do this so often to the point where I think it has even become my anthem. So, firstly, Jenna, I want to say thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, Jenna, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. You see, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it, and the leaves were all dry. I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Jenna, just recently I was on that same road. Then this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did, and it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. Not just mangoes now, but ripe mangoes. It was a beautiful experience that day. I was so excited. More like a very, very special moment. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Jenna that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to skip you. And that's why you see you got the request for me to be on the show. Because I was attracted to the fruit of all that you're doing. Your work, your philosophies, your insights, it is amazing. And the impact your work is having, it's so beautiful. And before I sent you that request, I said to myself, I've got to benefit from all of those beautiful things that Jenna is doing. And not only me now, but even the audience. And here we are today with the amazing Jenna. So thank you so very much for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for saying yes to the invite. Because if you had said nope, there was nothing I could do about it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a beautiful story.
Awesome. Thank you
Great word
too.
picture.
Yeah, thank you. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, I believe it takes the application of knowledge. Not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, Jenna, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. And the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Jenna on the show is for the sake of the listeners. See, Jenna, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I'm totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Jenna, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. Right now, we are so curious. We want to know how Jenna got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Jenna, over to you.
Thanks. Yeah, so I live in northern Minnesota on beautiful Lake Superior and born and raised. When I was 7 years old, I was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I was in a manual wheelchair by age 8. And life was interesting because being in a rural community and, before 1990, when the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, life was very challenging. There was lots of physical barriers. There wasn't accessibility with lots of ramps and updated elevators and those kinds of things. I think I lost you. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, I'm still with you. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry about that. um, yeah, so um, life was painful because arthritis is, a lot of people think it's an older person's disease or those kinds of things, and it's totally not. Kids get arthritis too. And my disease was very fast acting. But, when you're a kid, you don't know any different. So you just do life and you get exposed to all new things. And I had great family support, great friend support. In 8th grade, I had an amazing band teacher who just inspired me to pursue that as a career. Yeah, and it wasn't because of music per se, but in the music and especially in the band world, I was a trumpet player. That just really made the playing field equal, right? So even though I wasn't like the star basketball player because I was in a wheelchair and all those things, once I was able to play the trumpet, I was able to just be like everybody else. So that was just another gateway to freedom for me as a kid. And that led to me going and getting 2 bachelor's degrees. So I was certified as a K-12 band and choral teacher. I spent 19 years in the classroom, first starting at a parochial school, then going to a charter school, and then ending up in my alma mater in a public school setting, and taught in all 3 of the schools within that district in my career. I've gone through, I think my upcoming surgery will be surgery number 18. So I have 6 joint replacements, lots of living in the medical world, lots of physical and occupational therapies, lots of cool relationships that are built in that. And so, when the pandemic happened and the whole world shut down and my world became even more isolated, there was also this freedom of, hey, everybody's on the same playing field, right? I don't have to go out to these buildings that are no longer accessible to me. Everybody's coming into my world, like you're coming into my world here today. And that worked pretty well for me. It kept me healthy. It kept me safe because that was also my first experience of my invisible disability, where everybody sees my wheelchair and my hands that look arthritic and those kinds of things first. This was the time when people were like, oh, Jenna's immunocompromised. And even quote unquote, after the pandemic is done, right? I'm still immunocompromised. I still have invisible disabilities that I have to work around and work through. And so in that, I had to take a disability retirement because the school was no longer interested in taking a part of my work from home order from my medical team. And so that was a huge identity crisis for me because after being a music educator for 19 years and knowing since 8th grade that this is what I was meant to do, excuse me, that was a struggle. But I was also very surprised when I was given the term of accessibility educator. So I think that's what sets me apart in this field of disability advocacy and activism and just taking all the things that I've learned as an educator of somebody who's created adaptive music programs and all the things like I see the world from multiple perspectives. And I can see things 4 steps ahead because that's how my life always has to be planned because of the inaccessibility of the environments I find myself in. So in that time, I became a 2020 Bush Fellow. And in that, I was inspired to start my nonprofit, Above and Beyond with You. And Above and Beyond stands for going above and beyond the code of ADA. And it's not about a checklist, but we're humans who all have needs. And how do we meet the basic needs of people so they can be safe and thrive in their community? And the with you is a nod to my education because in my work, I want to partner with people. I want to make authentic relationships. I want to make impacts that continue, not just a one-time flash in the pan type of situation. And the U is actually just a capital U, which stands for my last name, Udenberg. And when I was teaching, you can imagine little kindergartners trying to say, hey, Miss U, or Miss Udenberg. So they shortened it to Miss U. So that's how the nonprofit got its name. And then as part of the nonprofit, I self-published my memoir, which is Within My Spokes. And people can find that on Amazon and on our website as well. And that was a challenging process, but I'm so very thankful to go through writing my story and figuring out what parts of the story the world can know. And yet it's so funny when people ask me about my book or they say, hey, Jenna, tell this story. And I'm like, I told that story to the whole world. So yeah, no, it's all good. I'm completely a different person than, 5-8 years ago. I've been through a lot of leadership training and different cohorts. And now I'm a part of the Shannon Leadership Institute for 2025 as well. So it's always great learning more about self and, more importantly, learning about others and how we're interconnected.
Amazing. And that's a beautiful journey. You see, the fact that you kept pressing on, and that you didn't allow the situation decide who you will become, but you took charge. It's amazing. And you mentioned your memo. What was the process of writing your memo like? Can you share that?
Yeah, so for many years, even since my childhood, like different medical people, like, you need to write a book. Because as you can tell, I, try to infuse some humor along the way because, life is painful, but life is beautiful. And life is, if you don't laugh at yourself, you're just going to cry. So I'd choose laughter, which is the best medicine. So like I said, during the pandemic and, as I was going through that identity crisis and changing of careers and all the things, I'm like, here's the perfect time. So I hopped on the self-publishing bandwagon, and the place that I went through has what they call writing rooms, and there's just Zoom rooms where you just state your goals and work on things for about an hour and a half and then share what you accomplished. And I was very thankful for that accountability, because when you're writing your memoir, especially something as painful and traumatic as some of the things that I have gone through, it was my first coach's recommendation. She's like, memoirs are hard, so write the thing that you feel you can write well in any given day or any given writing session, and don't feel like you have to go through chronologically. And as a type A personality, that was very freeing for me to just be like, yep, take an assessment every time before the writing session and figure out, where's your emotional status at? Do you feel like you can write, these hard things? It took about a year to write the whole book. And I had some great people that peer reviewers, as well as a great editor. And it was, like I said earlier, it was very much a part of the healing process. Like, I've been in a wheelchair for almost 38 years now. And so I'm very secure in who I am and in those things and the different processes I just have learned that I need to go through when different medical things happen or different discrimination things happen, or just life that happens to everybody, right? But the book was able to help me process through it at a new level. And then as I get to have more and more conversations about life, it's so refreshing to hear other people's life. And the word I was given before I started writing my book was the word tapestry. So my byline or subtitle is A Tapestry of Pain, Growth, and Freedom. And the tapestry part is about, it's not just my story, but it's all of the people that have intersected with my life. And those those teachers, those friends, those family members, the chosen family, the biological family, the medical providers, good, bad, otherwise, painful, happy, still in my life, type people. And some of those strands of the tapestry are thick and beautiful and strong and long. And some are, still vibrant and still important, but they're thinner and they're shorter and they're, less strong. But when you flip that tapestry over, you see the knotted up crazy things that bring it all together, but then you can flip it over and appreciate the beauty.
Beauty. And that's amazing. And thank you for sharing that with us. Your story is very inspiring, and I and I think many people need to understand how powerful sharing our stories can be at times. So I want you to talk about that. Yeah, how can life story inspire change? Can you talk to us about?
Yeah, I appreciated when you said earlier, these are my words, not your words, but, it seemed like you were talking about being a lifelong learner, right? That's how we change and how we confront our unconscious biases and how we fight against the things that are wrong. And a lot of times we don't know what's wrong until we hear someone else's story, because we're not going to be able to live 20 million different lives to understand what life is like in different countries and different religious backgrounds and different family backgrounds and different abilities, non-abilities. There's not enough time to do all the things. So we need to learn from each other. And I love the way that you phrase the question, because so often people will say, "Oh, Jenna, you're so inspiring." And it's like, thanks, but our story should inspire change, like your question said, right? So how do we take the stories of other people's lives, and how do we make sure that we're being accessible and inclusive and creating a sense of belonging in all the spaces that we're at? Um, and I think a lot of times it's just, for me, in my experience in working with others and myself, it's like, how do I need to get over myself? Because so many times we are the ones that are putting up the walls, and we're the ones that are putting in assumptions. And we're adding, sometimes we're adding more obstacles and barriers for the people we love and care about to get over, than to just have those deeper conversations of, hey, when I say this, or when I act this way, or when I don't pull a chair out for you when we go to dinner, like, how does that make you feel? Right. So it can be something as simple as a physical thing. It can be something as simple as the words we use, which words are very powerful. And I would also say on that topic is, depending on how long someone has been in disability community and culture will depend on how comfortable they are with different words. And even people that have been in culture for the same amount of time will find things differently. Like for me, I love the word disability. There's nothing bad about it. There are negative connotations in our society about it, but I'm glad to see that that is starting to change. And disability impacts every single life. So with 29% of the American population identifying as disabled, we know that because of that negative stigma, there's even more disabled people in our culture and community than that are identifying because of some of that negative stigma. And so if a quarter of our population or more identify as that, then every American life is impacted by disability. And, when I was growing up, the word of the time was handicap. And about, I don't know, 8 years ago or so, I was like, seriously, I'm not a golf term. Please stop saying handicap. Like, right? Like, some of the things we come up with just don't make a lot of sense. Like, in the time it did, and that's fine. But for me, yeah. So words are powerful. And it can be really hard to change some of those words. But until people have enough courage to say, hey, you know what? Here's the history of that word, or here's what that word means to me, we as a human society can't change until we can be honest and vulnerable.
That's so true. What's so powerful? What's so powerful?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Janet, so to bring this to an, how you like to leave the audience with like a final thought? Getting to listen to you, I've been waiting for this day, and oh boy, it came out as I thought, even more, because your words are incredibly profound and insight in your story. I tell you, it's really, really inspiring. So, for folks who like to reach out to you, learn more about everything we've discussed so far, or even ask questions, how can that be possible?
Yeah, the best way is to go to our website, www.aboveandbeyondwithyou.org. You can find us on Facebook, on Insta, and on LinkedIn. I also write for our local paper, Lake County Press, and I write an article every other week called Local View from 4'2", because my eyes actually measure at 4'2". So I get to write about just different life experiences, things that I find here on Lake Superior, things when traveling. There's so many aspects of life that get impacted by disability and accessibility. And sometimes I share those articles also on our website and on social media. So, yeah, just continuing the conversation and figuring that next right thing. And I guess the last nugget would be just for people to self-reflect. So often people start tokenizing people in minority groups, and they don't even realize that they're tokenizing us. And so making sure the connections that people make, whether it's in business, in personal, in all the different aspects of life, that it's truly an authentic relationship and that it's a two-way street.
Two-way straight. Got it. So that's going to be the end of the show, Jenna. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing this beautiful stuff with us and your inspiring story. Thank you so very
Thank you.